Hey, second graders, it's Mrs. Steele's back for our next science lab. And actually, this is going to be our last science lab until after we get back from the winter break. So after this, I will not see you until January. But we're going to go ahead and get started. The past couple weeks, have been talking about natural resources. We're going to be moving on and talking about weather today. Um, we're just going to kind of touch on weather today. We're not really going to get deep into weather until after we get back from the break, but we'll go ahead and start on it today. So, your target says I can identify the importance of weather information to make choices in clothing, activities, and transportation. So, um, we are talking about how we can use the information about the weather to decide what types of clothes we should wear that day, what types of things it would be safe to do that day, and how it would be safe to travel. That's what transportation means. So let's go ahead and get started. Hopefully, you remember that weather is the condition of the atmosphere in a place for a short period of time. Remember that the Earth is surrounded by a layer of clouds and gases, and this is called the atmosphere. And everything that's happening up there is what controls or affects the weather down here on Earth. So basically, weather is just what it's like outside. When you listen to a weather report, they're going to tell you about lots of different things. They don't just tell you if it's hot or cold. That's only one part of weather. They're also going to tell you about some other things. So we're going to go into that now, and then we'll also talk about how we can use this information to decide what to wear or what to do or how to get around. So the first part of weather is cloud cover. And this basically just means how many clouds are in the sky. Sometimes we look up at the sky and it's very gray. The entire sky is covered in clouds. We would call this a cloudy or an overcast day. Other times we look up at the sky and we see some clouds, but we also see some blue sky and sunshine. This would be what we call a partly cloudy day because part of the sky has clouds, part of the sky has sun. And then other times we look up at the sky and we don't see any clouds at all. We just see bright blue sky, the sun shining through. This is my favorite kind of day. This would be a sunny or a clear day. Now, why do you think it's important to know about the cloud cover for the day? I'll give you a minute to think about it. See if you can think why would it be important to know um, how many clouds are going to be in the sky that day? Give you a second to think about it. And one reason that it's important to know this is because if you're going to be doing an activity outside that day, you'll want to know if it's cloudy or overcast or clear or sunny, because if it's a clear or sunny day, that means that you might need to put on sunscreen or sunblock to protect your skin from getting sunburned. And that's a way that we can stay safe. That's why it's important to know if it's going to be a sunny or a clear day, especially if you are going to be outside for a long period of time. Another part of the weather that we hear about is temperature. And this is when the meteorologist, who's the scientist that studies weather, tells you that it's 52 degrees or it's 75 degrees. They're telling you about the outside air temperature. And they can use a thermometer to measure it. And that's what tells you the exact temperature. Sometimes we don't use the exact temperature, but we use words like warm, cool, hot, and cold. All of these words describe temperature. I'll give you a second. Why is it important to know what the temperature is going to be? Ooh, this is a very important one. When I watch the weather every morning when I'm getting ready for school, I always make sure to listen to when they tell me about the temperature. Why do you think we need to know that? Why do you think we need to know if it's going to be warm, cool, hot, or cold? And the main reason is so that we know what kinds of clothes to wear that day. Like this morning, the day I'm making this video, it's a very cold day. When I listened to the weather report this morning when I was getting ready for school, the meteorologist said that it was only 33 degrees, and that is very cold. So I knew I needed to wear this big sweater today in order to keep warm. If I was wearing a t-shirt or a tank top or something, I would be very, very cold. Um, so in addition to knowing what clothes to wear, temperature will also tell us what types of activities it's okay or it's safe to do. Like since today is a colder day, I wouldn't want to do something like go to the pool or go to the beach because it wouldn't be enjoyable because I'd be freezing cold and that could cause me to get sick. So we can decide what activities to do based on the temperature. Another part of the weather is the wind, which means air that is moving. Sometimes it's a very, very windy day when the air is moving very fast. And you might see the trees looking like this, or your hair might be blowing all over the place. Or if you're carrying something in your hand, it might blow out of your hand. Another word we use to describe wind is breezy, and that means that there's a little bit of wind, but it's not like this. A breezy day is a good day to fly a kite. And I'll come back to that. And then other times there's no wind at all, and we say that it's a calm day. So hopefully you're thinking now that it would be important to know about the wind in deciding which activities to do that day. For example, like I said a second ago, you would not want to fly a kite on a day that looks like this because it's very likely that your kite will break or snap in half, or the handle will break off of it, or you might have trouble controlling it because that's too much wind. But a breezy day when there's just a little bit of wind is a perfect day for flying a kite. You also wouldn't really want to fly a kite on a calm day because the kite wouldn't really go anywhere, right? It would just kind of flop on the ground. So knowing the winds can help us make choices on what sorts of activities to do. And then the last component or part of weather is this word precipitation. That's kind of a big word, but you have hopefully heard it before in first grade and kindergarten. And precipitation is water or ice that falls from the clouds. There are four main forms of precipitation. There's snow, rain, sleet, and hail. So what happens is the clouds, they're actually made up of tiny drops of water. A lot of kids think that they're made up of cotton or cotton balls or cotton candy, but they're not. They're actually made up of water. And when the cloud gets too big and full and heavy and it cannot hold in all those drops of water anymore, they fall to the ground. And that's when we get rain, which is our most common type of precipitation. However, if it's very, very cold high up in the atmosphere or in the clouds, the rain can freeze and then we can get another form of precipitation. This one right here is called sleet. And sleet is a winter precipitation. And what happens is when it's very cold up in the clouds and the rain freezes, um, that's how sleet begins. And then as it begins falling towards the earth, what happens is it passes through a patch of warm air that causes it to melt and turn back into rain. So now it's a raindrop again, but it changes again. Before it hits the ground, it passes through really cold air one more time, which causes it to refreeze. So it is ice that has melted and refrozen all the way on its journey to the earth from the clouds. So when you touch sleet, it's going to feel kind of like a slushy or an icy. It is ice, but it's not going to feel like solid ice, like an ice cube or something like that. Another form of winter precipitation is snow, which is ice, or which is water that freezes and falls down. It feels it feels kind of dusty and powdery and fluffy. We'll talk more about that in a minute. And then the last form of precipitation is hail, which if you were here last year in first grade, hopefully you remember the activity we did with the onion, where we modeled a hailstone. And the reason we used an onion is because when you if you were to cut open a hailstone, it would kind of look like an onion. You would see all these different layers because what happens is hail begins high up in the clouds as a raindrop. And hail forms when there's lots of warm air and cold air mixing together, and when there's a lot of wind. Because what happens is the raindrop starts falling to earth, and as it's falling, a gust of wind comes and pushes it back up into the clouds, where remember, it's very, very cold. So, up there in the very cold clouds, another layer of ice forms on the raindrop, and then it starts to fall again. But if it's windy enough, the wind can push it back up again, and another layer of ice forms. So the windier it is, the more times this cycle is going to happen. And the more times that happens, the bigger the hailstone gets and the more layers it has. That's why it has all those layers and why it kind of looks like an onion when you cut it open. Um, Hail can be as big as like a grapefruit or a softball. I've even seen online, there was one instance where it got as big as a basketball, which is really rare, but it could happen. Um, so we definitely need to pay attention to precipitation when deciding what types of things to wear or do. You would not want to be outside during a hailstorm. It can cause a lot of damage because think about it, it's solid balls of ice falling from the sky. It can damage your car, it can damage your house, and you certainly, would not want to be hit in the head by a hailstone. Also, we wouldn't want to go to the beach or the pool if it was supposed to snow or sleet that day or even rain, although the rain itself can't really hurt us. Rain often comes with electricity or with lightning, and we don't mix electricity and water, so it's not safe to swim during that. We also need to know what to wear. If we're going to be outside or walking, we need to be able to protect ourselves with a rain jacket, maybe a hat and boots to keep ourselves, dry and warm. So knowing the weather is very important to knowing what to wear, what to do, and how to travel. So the kids in class, what they're going to be doing is they're going to be drawing a picture and writing to tell me about what the weather is like today and how that is going to affect what they wear and do and travel. So for example, like I told you, today is a cold day, so that helped me decide what to wear. I'm wearing a sweater instead of a t-shirt and shorts where I would be very, very cold. Also, since today is a cold day, I'm definitely not going to go to the pool or the beach, after school. I'll probably do something inside, or if I'm going to be outside because it is sunny and pretty, I'll make sure to bundle up. All right, so if you would like to draw a picture and show me what the weather is like and how that affects your choices, that would be great. You can email it to me, send me a message. The next thing we're going to do, which, if you're at home, you won't be able to do this unless you find some. This is kind of a science lab tradition, meaning we do this every year, the last science lab before the winter break. We make insta-snow, and the students get to make some and take it with them. So this is fake snow. This is not real. We just talked about how real snow is made of, ice. This is a powder. I'll show it to you. It's actually little bitty tiny pieces of plastic. And what happens is when you mix these little bitty tiny pieces of plastic with water, they absorb or soak up the water and they expand, and they're going to get big and fluffy. It's going to look like I'm not adding very much of the insta-snow to the cup, but you're going to see once I add water to it, it's going to get big and fluffy and look like real snow. So if this is something you'd like to do at home with your family, I got this kind on Amazon. This is my favorite kind. It looks like this. It's literally type in insta-snow. This is my favorite kind because it gets the biggest and fluffiest and looks the most like real snow. And also some of the other kinds have kind of a weird, strong, plasticky smell to them. But you can find different types of this same thing at Walmart, Target, the dollar store. But for this specific brand, the only place I've ever seen it is on Amazon. So, anyways, what you're gonna do is, or what we're gonna do, I'm gonna take our cup, and this kind also comes with this little scooper, which is perfect. It tells you exactly how much you need. I'm gonna get a scoop. Hopefully I don't spill. All right, and then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add about 2 ounces of water, which if you're using a cup like this is about to this top line right here. And you don't even have to stir. The plastic is going to absorb and soak up the water, and you're gonna see it getting bigger and fluffier and looking like real snow, all right? Are you ready? Whoa, do you see that? See how it's getting big and fluffy and expanding a lot? It looks like real snow. I'm just gonna take my spoon and give it a couple stirs just to make sure it's nice and big and fluffy. And there we go. And then if you touch it, it actually even feels like real snow. It's wet because of the water that we added. And it's also very fluffy and soft. It's not cold though, because it's not ice. You don't have to put this in the freezer. In fact, I don't recommend putting it in the freezer because once you take it out and it melts, it's going to be really soggy and yucky. Please make sure if you have younger brothers and sisters or, cats and dogs at home, make sure this stays in a place where they cannot get to it and eat it. This is not food. It's plastic. Please make sure you don't eat it. This is not meant to last forever. It's just, it's just for fun. Play with it for a couple days or a week. It's going to start to dry out. When it starts to dry out, just throw it away. It might get, if you leave it like, someplace dark without a lot of airflow and light, it might even get moldy. Just throw it away. But the good news is if you stay at Pershing Park, you will get to do this again next year because like I said, this is just a little science lab tradition. We do it every year, every grade level, the week before we get out for the holiday break, just so you have something a little bit fun to do and play with. All right, I hope that you guys had fun learning about weather and seeing the insta-snow. I hope that you have a wonderful holiday break, and I will see you guys back in January. Bye.